The latest action is from the Thai SEC. They have hit Binance with a criminal complaint for operating without a license. It's the latest in a string of enforcement actions against Binance. And I just have a feeling that something is going to happen big on this. It's Friday before a long weekend. I would be wondering if others potentially here in the US could be taking actions as well. Just have a bad feeling. So I'm going to kick this one off to you, Naomi. This is again a string. This is the latest in a string of actions that suggest that regulators worldwide are taking this Binance thing more seriously. What do you make of this?
I mean, it seems to be happening everywhere. We've talked in the last few weeks about this string, as you said, of regulatory pushback against Binance. It is a kind of unique company in that it doesn't seem to be domiciled in any particular place. And I think governments are trying to figure out, well, what jurisdiction is this in? The only thing they can really control is what the citizens in their countries have access to. So they're starting to clamp down on all of that. I mean, it's kind of interesting because we talk about Bitcoin as being this decentralized entity that even if it's shut down in one place, it's not going to die because it exists in other places. And I think that jurisdictional arbitrage can apply to all kinds of entities. It doesn't have to just be a decentralized entity like Bitcoin. Binance is clearly an incredibly centralized company, but they just happen to be geographically dispersed. And it seems like that may be enough to kind of keep them going as long as they have their operational in a country that isn't going to try to push back against them in a regulatory way. Then people are still going to access them. I mean, even in places where they're banned, like in the US, there are lots of people who use VPNs and go to Binance because it has the most liquidity. It has the most coin offerings. It has good fees. There's a reason why people like it, but governments think, well, they shouldn't like it. We should protect them. So they're all pushing back, saying, well, you didn't file the right paperwork, et cetera, et cetera. I think, honestly, it doesn't matter what these governments do. As long as Binance exists somewhere, people are still going to use it. But David, I would love your thoughts. Sorry, Zach, you had your
Well, I
hand
saw.
up as well.
Yeah, I think Zach got in first, or Will maybe.
I'll just do a quick point of fact. I mean, so my fear that the other shoe will drop stems from a report in May from Bloomberg that U.S. officials were also conducting an investigation. That's yet to be confirmed, but we may or may not see that soon. I saw Will's hand up first, then Jen, and then David. Will, what do you have to say about Binance right now?
Yeah, I'll go real quick. So we've always talked on the show about how Binance does this regulatory arbitrage idea, but I saw a great tweet yesterday reminding me that Singapore invested a ton of money into Binance. Like their sovereign state fund was one of the biggest backers of Binance early on. And so if you look at this regulatory landscape, you often see these players work in concert together. And you see that with like the G7 recently looking at issuing a global tax rate for corporations. While that also comes down to like who they are regulating on the financial front with FinCEN. And that just kind of disperses all across the world. So it's interesting that it puts Singapore versus all these other countries, which they want to have more like stable control over money moving around the world. But Singapore has a huge investment in Binance, and I just don't see them taking this lying down. But Jen, your thoughts?
Yeah, we talk a lot on this show about regulators not really understanding crypto, and I think Binance is just the biggest target. You know, it's easy for regulators to go after Binance. They're the largest exchange. What was interesting to me in this story is that one of the reasons cited was that there's a Facebook page, a Binance Thai community Facebook page. I tried to find that page. The one I found, and I can be corrected, but the one I found had a Gmail account attached to it. I think it had about 2,000 followers. It wasn't clear that Binance was running the page, and it was interesting to me to see that that's what the regulators were citing. There's a community Facebook page in Thailand, so this means that they must be after Thai users. And it feels to me like the regulators are grappling at straws, and that's why I'm really interested to see how this plays out over the next few weeks or months.
So continuing to work through our Occupy Wall Street style stack here, I just have two things to say. One is that you know, the states will continue to clamp down, and that creates problems for the founders, regardless of where the company is domiciled. So that's one thing that, you know, they do apply pressure to that. Historically, it's really interesting to look at this, because when you go back to like 2017, around the era when Binance really started becoming dominant, I think that actually might be more like 2018. They didn't even launch until 2018. They were seen as like the clean operators. They were the transparent, open people who were going to come in and you know, comply enough to play the game. And so it's interesting to see them getting cracked down on. And the other thing I would say is, this is a timing thing, right? Like, regulators get interested when something is big, and crypto has obviously seen a huge growth over the last year. Otherwise, they wouldn't be interested. But this is also kind of the end of the cycle. If you look back again at 2018 and 2019, regulatory crackdowns come after the surge. And then, you know, if, for example, Binance becomes harder to use, that'll put downward pressure on the market as a whole, and just kind of complete the journey into what we, you know, last time called crypto winter. So we'll see how that plays out, but certainly macro market risk.